Poles had various kinds of relations to what was happening to the Jews during the war. Some Poles helped the Jews. We know a lot of Poles turned Jews in, but the overall experience of the Poles during the war, the thing that typified the whole experience, was witnessing. The Poles watched what happened. The Poles saw it from the beginning to the end. This is a horrifying thing that makes somebody feel helpless, ultimately, that leads to the need to process this after the experience is over in order to regain one's humanity somehow. That's the basic experience. Then we take that experience and we fit it into the history of Polish-Jewish relations. Before the war, we have a situation where you can talk about anti-Semitism, you can even not talk about anti-Semitism and say simply that the average Pole in the late 1930s would simply rather that there were too many Jews. They would rather the Jews have not been there. Right? They weren't prepared to kick them out forcibly, by and large, with the exception of small groups. They simply wish that the Jews weren't there. Right? Now what happens? What happens is the Germans come and do this thing, get rid of the Jews in the most horrifying possible way in front of the eyes of all these Poles. Then the Germans are gone. Then the Poles who watched all this kind of become the inheritors of this whole Jewish world. And here I'm talking about a concrete Jewish world consisting of homes and synagogues and offices and bed linen and dishes and what have you. The whole world suddenly becomes Polish. And this is this world where Jews once lived. They're not there. Now, that experience, and then on top of that, you can't talk about it for 45 years because there's communism. Right? And just lies and silence and distortions of various kinds. Now that experience creates some major problems in dealing with the Jews, but also in dealing with themselves. And the ins and outs of that, the effect that experience has had on not just Polish-Jewish relations, but on the relations of Poles to themselves.